Hello, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Jess.
She's the traumatized.
And she's the abandoned.
And
welcome to our podcast,
where we talk about true crime, spooky things, and everything in between.
And today we're switching it up and we're doing a update on a case that we did back in episode 5.
Episode 5.
5, which is insane.
So insane.
That it was up so long ago. Yeah, we're going to be doing an update on NXIVM, the NXIVM cult. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, you should do it. I mean, full disclosure, I was very sick. And I think I messed up some of the names, or I don't remember recording. But it's super informative. And the reason we're doing this update is because HBO just released season 2 of The Vow, which is really, I got like 90% of my information when I did, which is probably why it was so sporadic, because it's hard watching a documentary that's that many episodes and like putting all your thoughts together.
I broke down the notes by episode, so
yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
It's gonna be great, and we're gonna talk. It's gonna be like open discussion. We're gonna give you guys some updates on the sentencing, because I think all of that's been resolved now.
Also, it's gonna be full of our opinions.
There's a lot of opinions.
There's a lot of opinions that I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. But yeah, so season 2 just released. If you guys haven't watched it already, you definitely should. It was hard to watch, actually.
We found out a lot more information that we had no idea even was a part of it.
1,000%.
So
yeah,
interesting.
I think you watched it first, and then you're like, all right, you gotta let me know when you get to this one part. And like 2 episodes before that one part, I was like, what the hell? Like it was just, we're gonna talk about it. It's gonna be great.
We are.
So yeah, how was your week?
Nothing really happened.
It's a good week.
Yeah.
Technical issues though. You're having
a lot of technical issues. I looked it up one of the nights we were hanging out, and apparently Uranus is in retrograde, which is affecting technology right now. So
fucking Uranus.
I guess it's fucking with me.
But yeah, so I mean, we're getting through them though. You streamed?
Yeah, I came back to streaming. It was really fun.
You did so much work for your stream. Oh my god, it looked so good.
I worked so hard, and I was so proud of it. And then like my mic kept cutting out. So it's fine. Technical
if it's not one thing, it's always another. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So it's a bumpy road, but what isn't in life if
facts.
Not full of bumpy roads?
1,010% fact.
Yeah. How was your week?
It's a maniacal laughter. No, it's great. Work is so busy, but it's good. And preparing to go to Virginia for Christmas.
Better start working on those boundaries, those walls. Get them up.
Which sucks because like I'm sick. So it's right now I'm just trying to focus on not being sick, but I also need to focus on doing that exact thing because yeah, so it's good. We're gonna go down there. We're leaving end of next week. We're gonna be down there for almost a full week, which is gonna be great. And then I have to come back and work on Friday, which is not so great, but
the Friday after Christmas.
Yeah. It'll be really, I mean, it's not gonna be slow because I'm gonna be gone all that week, and I don't think anybody's gonna be doing birth certificate. I don't know I don't know. So I'm
Is there only one of you that does birth certificates?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm kind of important, you know?
Oh, okay. Well.
But also when I go on vacation, like I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. But I'll come back and then I have a 3-day week.
Nice.
But yeah, so week was good. Looking forward to next week. Got a 3-day weekend after 1 work day, so it's gonna be good. And then I don't think we're planning anything I know we're gonna be those homebodies that don't do anything on New Year's Eve because I think I'm just gonna take that 3-day weekend and not do anything. I have a party I'm going to, but it's like a work, like on my work friends. So hopefully that'll be relaxing and fun. Anyway, fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day. Let's go.
Fun fact of the day. Did you know that Canada, the country Canada, is actually south of Detroit, Michigan? Did you know that?
What?
Like on the map, if you look at a map, Canada actually comes down lower than Detroit, Michigan.
Interesting.
Right? So like there's some parts of Canada that are more south than Detroit. So that was the fun fact of the day. All right.
Love that.
You ready? We're going to get into it. We're just going to jump right into it.
We are. So basically, yesterday I spent all day re-watching
Bless you.
season 2 so that we would have fresh memory of it. Is that what I'm going for?
And honestly, I almost did that last night, but my mental state isn't great right now.
My mental state was fine, and I went to bed at like 10 with migraine, nauseous. Like I was just like,
it's a lot. Ugh. It really is a lot. I really appreciate you doing that because like I was like I should probably rewatch this, but like my mental state's not great, so I'm glad you did. It's
a lot of gaslighting and narcissism.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Which we love. Like, both of us love that.
Definitely need more of that in my life.
So also we're going back to episode 5 where I have actual written notes and not typed notes.
Oh my God. Back in the day, guys. Back in the day. We're just throwing it back there. I don't know when I noticed that you wrote your notes, but I was like, how do you write your notes? Like, that's insane to me. I do a lot of copy and paste, though.
Yeah.
Don't tell the viewers.
Don't tell the viewers.
I make up all of the stuff.
Putting sentences together is hard. So
it is so hard.
So should we just jump right into it? Episode 1 of season 2 of The Vow. My first note for this entire series was Keith was hiding in a closet. LOL. Coward.
What? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I was like, they went into it, right? They went into how they actually found him.
Right.
And he hid in a fucking closet because they were like, oh no, the police are here.
Yeah, because they were down in Mexico. They went on the run under the guise that, we're going on a spiritual journey, vacation, blah, 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 to Mexico. No, he was on the run and he took all of his...
Like a little bitch that he is.
His little DOS members with him.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into later. My next note was the defense attorney is also delusional if he believes that he is innocent, because the evidence that we're going to talk about later just like...
Oh my God.
Yeah, so...
I really enjoyed watching the defense attorney slowly realize the
mistakes he's made.
I mean, I don't think he ever, but he like never admitted that he was wrong, but I think by the end, he definitely knew. Like, there's nowhere hiding it.
Yeah. So the prosecutor, like, basically saying that DOS was female power and that Keith had nothing to do with it.
Totally in denial. Like, oh my God. And yeah, okay, I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah, and then the next person that they introduced was Moira Penza, which was the lead prosecutor. And I loved what she said. She viewed Keith as a crime boss, and she said, like, when she looked at NXIVM, it was basically set up how traditional organized crime is set up.
Yep. So. No, she did a really good job. Like, she did a really good job. I was really happy to see that. She
said that the reason why they charged the woman is because she believed that they were the ones that had a chance to see behind the curtain, whether they did or didn't. They had that choice to like see the shit that was happening.
But yeah, no, I found that really interesting too, because I found myself feeling bad for some of the women. Even the ones that were like, you know, responsible, because as they go on to just like to talk about what happened to them, it was a form of abuse and entrapment. And yes, I know there's always like, okay, well, they should have just stood up and done something themselves. But at the same breath, like, you put yourself in their shoes, like, you're so far in. There's some sort of bad comparison. But say you're like waiting in a fast food line, right? And you're sitting there waiting and you're waiting. Okay, you've waited 10 minutes. Okay, you waited 20. At some point, your mind flips like, why am I still waiting here? Well, I've already waited this long. Why not just a little longer? Then it'll be worth my time. And I think, what's really bad, we should really get out. We should really say something. Well, we've done this. We've already gone this far.
Yeah.
And I think that,
like, NXIVM is the definition of a cult because it was under the guise of self-empowerment, self-improvement. Like, NXIVM core thing was about self-improvement, self-reflection.
Yep.
And that's what they sold. So if you go into NXIVM wanting the self-improvement, wanting the self things, but it's not working, or you don't want to be a failure at that point because you put thousands and thousands of dollars trying to improve yourself, and then
100%
you find out that it's not real. And then now what? Now what do you do? You've invested all this time and money. And yourself, and like, how do you just stop that?
I actually found myself really feeling bad for some of the women. Now, some of the women just knew and whatever, but
some of them
I'm trying not to jump ahead because there's like things that are coming to my mind, and I'm like, I know we're gonna talk about it.
Some of them are still following him, like a woman.
That's what I was gonna
Nikki,
say. I was like,
who was one of Keith's partners, is what she said.
Yeah, partner. Oh my God. Okay.
Still believes that Keith is here to like change the world, make it a better place. Like, yeah. So moving on, the prosecutor kind of talked about why all the sex stuff was included and why it became a sex cult. Well, basically because the sex abuse was the main enterprise. So there was NXIVM and the self-improvement stuff, but the main focus of Keith was the sex abuse. The way that he used women, manipulated them into doing whatever he wanted, and basically having control of all these women through sex.
And like, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me because if you look at this man, he's not attractive. He's not attractive. He is not a good-looking man. And it's scary to me. It's scary to me to see a man who looks like that, who behaves the way he does, have 5, 6, 7 lovers, girlfriends at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that just absolutely blows my mind, because I'm like, he's like, and they loved him and they just wanted to make him happy. Yeah. And it's just like, wow, it's crazy to me.
On that note, the defense attorney said that Keith just had multiple consenting partners. So this chick, Nikki, in the first episode, she says that she's one of the ones that helped create DOS. That it was not about sex, but she used the word also a lot when describing what DOS was. So sex was involved, because she says, we also did this, we also did this, so there was sex like, she didn't deny it. She tried to deny it, but then at the same time, I think she like subconsciously basically confirmed it, that sex was involved with DOS, which we know. We already know this. But yeah, so they sold DOS to members as like an all women's group. It sounds like it was like an all women's group. It was made by women for women. That's what they would say. And that's what that's what they would tell Nancy. And it was like, oh, it's the women doing it.
Don't even get me started on Nancy.
We'll get to her. Don't you worry. I know. But what it sounds like is when these members would enter DOS, it was like, even the ones that like talked positively about it, basically it sounded like they were being abused mentally, saying, oh, you're not good enough, oh, you're not thin enough, oh, and they were under the guise of like, oh, they're trying to make me better, this is making me better. It's like, no, that's abuse. That's
trying
degrading.
to reach your full potential, and then
they would call out their flaws and just like so gross.
And the thing that got me about the whole NXIVM cult in general, but a lot in DOS, was like, if anything, if you disagree with them, if you went against them at all, then you were wrong because you weren't going with the system. Like there was no room for individual thought. Which cult, hello. But as soon as you went against the grain, that's your fault. You shouldn't think that way, that your insecurities are getting in your way. Like, no, or your fears are getting in your way. Like, no, those fears are legitimate. Like, those are legit fears. You know, our body reacts in certain ways on purpose. Because that was the whole thing with like the branding thing. The women were scared. You shouldn't be scared. This is a good thing. No. Don't come at me with a cauterizing iron and tell me it's going to be a good thing. Like, whew, okay. Anyway.
So, yeah. So basically, from my understanding, a couple of the girls that they interviewed, they kept saying I was a seeker or whatever. So what I'm understanding from that is that like a bunch of the people that went into NXIVM, they were like seeking growth and experience or whatever. I just found that interesting that they, like, 2 women said it. I was like, okay, this is weird. I have to write this down. Like I said earlier, there's still like a small group of followers that chose not to see everything that was happening. In fact, when they got to a specific part in the courtroom, that group walked out so they wouldn't have to hear. I think it was when Lauren testified, but so they basically could still deny it.
Right. Because you don't want to, when you're in that far denial, you don't want to hear the truth.
No. And when you do, you lash out.
Oh my God. Okay. Yep.
But basically, from my understanding, Keith had a way to make people believe that they were inefficient, that they were not good enough.
Yep.
And that they could not live without him. They could not survive without him.
Because he was the one that knew what they needed.
Right. Apparently his mother was very manipulative toward him, and so like I think that's where he picked up his manipulative ways and stuff.
Weird.
They would state that when they were asking him questions or wanting more clarification, he would pretend to be sick as a way of not talking about it.
Getting out of it?
So towards the end of the episode, that's when they basically everyone started to plead guilty. So Nancy was the first one to plead guilty. And from his jail cell, Keith said that Nancy was basically the downfall. He used the phrase, united we stand, divided we fall. And so he basically put all the blame on Nancy for what happened next, which was all the other women started pleading guilty.
Nancy was the
catalyst,
the turning point.
Yeah.
Which again is why I feel the way I feel about her now. My feelings have changed.
I have. We'll talk about it later. So Nancy was the first to plead guilty. Then her daughter Lauren pled guilty, and she would testify.
Yep.
Allison was the third, with Claire following close behind.
That's Claire Brofman, who
basically the money of NXIVM.
They were the Seagram's heirs.
So basically, Keith was forced to go the trial alone. So why they all pleaded guilty is because they didn't want to be dragged under Keith. Because they were trying all of them in one trial. They weren't separating them.
No, they had to. They had to do it that way.
Basically, it saved themselves, which I agree with.
Yep.
Which brings us to episode 2. So
buckle up. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not.
I mean, yeah, you should be buckled, but
4.
Oh my God.
5. Episode 5. I have
4 was bad.
4 pages.
Jesus.
Of episode 5. So in this episode, it kind of starts off with talking about Nancy and how this whole thing started, kind of basically. It was said that Keith probably picked Nancy because she had a background in helping chronic pain patients.
Yep.
Doing like self-hypnosis or NLP, which is I don't know, fancy brain stuff. I don't know.
I like that term. Thank you.
Fancy brain stuff or
fancy brain stuff. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, it's what it was. So
yeah. So I mean, yeah. So Keith had an insane way of manipulating people, and he would use that to create this curriculum that he could use to change people. And he wanted Nancy, like I said earlier, because of her background, and probably because she was probably an easy person to mold.
Target.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. Like, it's definitely a certain personality that, like, I think narcissists and manipulative people tend to go for. And what sucks is it's usually the sweet, kind, caring ones that they.
Yeah, because she would describe how, like, he was telling her of this amazing curriculum, and she's like, I'd like to see you use it on somebody, like see it in practice. And he's like, you mean like you? And like, that was the moment she like needed to do this. I was like, whatever.
But like, and that's when he started molding her and manipulating her.
The only thing is, like, they had this like serious conversation at the end of it, and he was like, if you have to like basically be in this for life, the vow, like lifelong commitment to this. And she's like, well, why wouldn't I be? And he was like, if you ever used like what I teach you in an unethical manner, you would be out. And I put big bold letters irony, because that's all he ever did was use this unethically.
Now, question. So you think he went into this wanting to manipulate women to have sex with them? Because I don't know if I do.
He wanted to manipulate people. He wanted control. For sure.
He wanted control.
He was definitely
wanted to be
definition of a cult leader. Thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, wants control over everybody, manipulate
highest
them,
IQ like in the world or something stupid like that.
There's no way he actually has the highest IQ.
No, I definitely agree with that. Like,
I think, and we'll see later on in the episodes, there comes a point and where that control is basically too much, and he takes it to probably places he's always wanted to take it, but didn't have the opportunity until these specific people came into his possession.
Yeah, because like you think about it, because there was DOS. DOS was bad, and then there was the guy version of it. There was a guy version of DOS. I can't remember what it was called. I know during the first season they actually had the women go to this guy version to teach them how women are like degrading to men.
I was gonna say, wasn't it very misogynist?
Yeah. And it was like they had them, if they crossed a man or made a man question himself, they had to do like push-ups and shit. Like, it was so crazy.
Yeah, I remember the dog bed story.
Right. So like I don't necessarily think it's a sex cult, like, at least to start out with. I do think you're right. I think it was in general very controlling. Yeah, for sure. Because like, if it was sex cult, I don't necessarily think he would have had control over the men as well as he did.
Yeah,
but he controlled the men too very well. Anyways, just a thought.
Nancy said that Keith was very kind to her in the beginning, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Again, she would say that Keith wanted to infiltrate the highest areas of entertainment and the highest areas of government. Right. That is cult-like behavior, wanting 1000%. To infiltrate the government.
Yep.
Control the masses. What do you mean it's not a cult? Not even like taking in DOS. This is the beginning of NXIVM, and he wants to infiltrate the government. What do you mean that's not a cult? That's a cult. That's a cult. That's a cult. I'm sorry.
Not arguing with you.
Like, for the listeners out there, that's a cult. Okay. Oh my gosh. Also, NXIVM had like this massive mission statement of what they were all about. And basically the part that stuck out to me was, which makes me think that maybe it was from the beginning his intentions, because part of the mission statement was, there are no ultimate victims. Therefore, I will choose not to be a victim. from the beginning, he was grooming everyone into there are no victims. And if you have a victim mentality, something's wrong with you.
Right.
Which brings me to my next statement. It basically worked in a way for the members not to recognize what abuse was. And in fact, they would have meetings about abuse and saying how people who called abuse were abusing abuse.
Right. The system. Yeah.
It was a lot of victim blaming, a lot of...
Oh my God, it was so bad.
Yeah. So, and then of course the people who challenged the abuses would be known as the suppressive.
Super healthy.
Yeah.
Fucking terrifying.
So next it kind of goes into Nancy talking about Mark and Sarah and how they left.
Right.
They were so just destructive.
Devastated.
They devastated them. I don't care. Sarah apparently disenrolled everyone she had enrolled and gave them refunds, which in my opinion is the fucking right thing to do. Like, realizing you're in a cult, my bad. Like, don't turn around, go back. But like, I mean, in my opinion, that was like the right thing to do. If I had accidentally, 100%. Enrolled people, I was like, oh my God, sorry, don't do this.
I think too, like a lot of her, it was all guilt. Because I think genuinely, and we said this during the first episode, it's something that I could buy into. Self-help, wanting to improve your standing and stuff like that. It's definitely something I could buy into. So I buy into it, and then I really start believing it, and I start selling it, and then you realize this is not what I signed up for at all. You have that guilt of, oh my God, I've now brought in hundreds of thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of people. I have to help them. How can I help them? And I think Mark and Sarah, the first season especially, it was a lot of guilt. Even Nancy brought in her fucking daughter, Lauren. So guilt, you know what I mean? I think it's, you want to believe in something so badly, the curtain drops and you realize, oh my God, what have we done? And you're just trying to do the best you can now. And
but it's like Nancy was still so mad at them.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I think she was hurt. Because they left her, but I also don't think Nancy was ready.
Yeah.
To hear the truth. I think they tried to tell her. She was like, no, that's not it. You're just confused. Like, she was too far in it.
Yeah.
So I think both sides are actually pretty valid. I can understand Nancy being hurt that, these people that they've known each other for, it was like, what, 12, 15 years. And they all believed the same thing and they loved each other. And then all of a sudden these guys were like, nah, see you, bye. Everything's a lie.
And like, that's the thing. Well, Sarah like tried calling Nancy and she like left her a message, and it was a very angry message. But Sarah, I understand that because she's very angry. She's very sad. Like, why did this happen in your company? Why was I hurt under your company?
And I genuinely think Sarah, Mark, everyone, at least the first season, all believed Nancy fucking knew. How could Nancy not know?
Yeah, how could she not?
But she didn't.
And I think that's something that, I mean, we can talk about it now, because that's one of my
we can talk about it.
Like, that's one of my main points is like Keith was so good at keeping Nancy away from the dirty stuff that he was doing.
And it because I hated Nancy first season. I hated her. I was like, you manipulative, because they flashed her around so much. And I was like, this bitch knew. I hated her. And I think that's probably one of the things that season 2 did for me is I genuinely feel bad for her. I really do. I mean, either she's a really good actress, but like they were having her look up shit because she just didn't know. She didn't know what BDSM was. Yeah. She didn't know. She really thought.
I mean, she didn't even know that Lauren was sleeping. Her daughter was sleeping with Keith for 5 years.
No idea. And like, I really did. I genuinely felt bad for her by the end of it, because at first it's like, no, she has to know. She's just being whatever. But I mean, I think sometimes if you believe something so much you become blind to everything else around you. And I think that's what happened with her. Anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I think Nancy was Keith's first victim in a sense because he.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
He molded her.
Hold on. Or his wife. He had a wife at the time.
He has a wife?
He was married when he started NXIVM.
What
she ended up dying.
Oh,
she died. That was remember? No, she was the one who had like cancer or whatever. Remember in the show, Pam.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Pam was his wife.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So
no, I think she was in
Pam
on it.
Was.
I think she was in on it.
You think?
Yeah, we'll get to it. Anyways,
okay.
So we're still focusing. We're still focusing on Nancy here.
Okay. Yeah.
Because basically, like she said earlier, like I said earlier, Keith was nice in the beginning. He was nice to her. Mm-hmm. But most then
manipulative people are.
He would start to berate her, and anytime she spoke, he would like correct her on how to speak. Mm-hmm. Anything she spoke. And so she was terrified being around Keith, and she would
so true.
She would not speak when she was around Keith.
And that was later, yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. I do remember them showing like a lot of clips because he would like berate her in front of people, like talk down to her and be like, "You don't know what you're talking about," and so she just stopped talking.
And then it goes into NXIVM a little bit about like how they would break bad habits, and bad habits would be like broken with like consequences or even physical activities. So like they would show clips of them doing planks or wall sits or
sleeping on dog beds.
Insane.
Not eating, skipping meals.
I think this is something the prosecutor said. What made NXIVM so dangerous was the way it would use some legitimate psychological tools in a really manipulative, coercive way.
It's crazy. Oh, yeah.
Which brings us to episode 4.
We're at 4? Oh,
yeah, we're at episode 4. Sorry.
Okay. Well, good. Well, no, don't apologize. We're almost at an hour now, and I was worried about this episode being short. So
I took a lot of notes, guys.
I know. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
I'm so proud of you. I really appreciate you doing it, honestly.
So episode 4 kind of starts off. They would talk about ethical breaches. Do you want to explain what an ethical breach is, if you still remember? It was basically if somebody did something that Keith didn't like, they committed an ethical breach.
Right. He would make them up too, wouldn't he? Mm-hmm. Like if he would like, oh nope, that was an ethical breach, and it's like, since when?
So yeah, he would use these ethical breaches to torture people. No one was able to repair their ethical breach with Keith. So he would literally give them an ethical breach, and there would be no way to fix it.
To come back from that.
Yeah.
Right. Uh-huh. I mean, there were like sexual ethical breaches too, right? Like if it was a love, that's basically how he would get rid of his lovers. Mm-hmm. He would get tired of them and be like, "Oh, you committed ethical breach. Now you have to do all these things to get back in my good graces." But it was never obtainable.
Yeah,
it was never obtainable. Yeah.
So episode 4 really makes you feel bad for Lauren.
Just that's what I'm saying, and I fucking hated her the first. Like, I think those are the
don't like her. I still get
weird vibes.
Just wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm waiting. Buckle it up.
So Keith strung Lauren along with the promise of children. So obviously Lauren was one of his long-term partners that he had forever. And Lauren would always ask, okay, when are we going to have children? When are we going to have children?
Right. And my God, yes. Oh my God, I forgot about this.
But it would always be Lauren's fault. Oh, you're not thin enough. Oh, you're not this enough. Or you're not good enough. Blah, blah, blah. You know, he would make up excuses of why he couldn't give her a baby at the time, putting it all on her.
Always a woman's fault.
And I think at some point she had a ethical breach, and so he was just like, oh, we can't have children ever, which is, I mean, it's sad. Like he did take her like childbearing years. Apparently this was something he did to a lot of women. A lot of his partners, he would promise them babies and never deliver, and it was very cruel.
Which makes me wonder if he could ever actually have kids.
Maybe not. I mean, it kind of sounds like sometimes he was impotent.
Impotent?
What is it?
Impotent.
Couldn't get it up.
Oh, I was thinking he just couldn't have babies. You don't think he could get it up?
I don't think he could.
Oh, I'd say poor Keith, but the bastard fucking deserves it. So
I think he was one of those. I think he was one of the people that like
overcompensated.
No, that like degrading would only arouse him.
Oh, you think?
Because like one thing that Lauren said to her mom, like Nancy talked about, is like Keith would have sex all over Nancy's house when she was gone. And like that was like the kind of thing he was into. It's like
so fucking crazy.
So what's insane to me is Keith had everything like videotaped or recorded.
Yeah. Oh, that was Lauren's job, right? Lauren was the videographer?
No, it was Danny's job, which we'll talk about Danny very soon. But yeah, so in a recording, it was him and Allison were talking about DOS. They were actually talking about the brands. And there's
a lot more recordings. Also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. There's a lot more recordings that they dropped in season 2 too.
Yeah.
I was like,
so in this recording, he was saying how, maybe they should be on a table, naked on a table, held down like a sacrifice. It's like a feeling of submission. And then he would like, he said like, what else did he say? But they have to like ask for it. Like, I want this commitment for the rest of my life.
He did. He really like focused on like he wanted them to ask for it.
And then like, at the end of it, he's like, but those are just ideas.
I was so like episode 4 is where I actually started yelling. Like I was getting so like aggravated at the TV show, just in general. I just started yelling. Like I was getting so frustrated.
I guess for a while though, Lauren didn't realize that he had multiple partners. Because she wasn't recruited into DOS that long. She was only a few weeks longer than Sarah was.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. But wasn't Lauren? I thought Lauren was Sarah's
best friend.
No, like master.
Yeah,
but she was only in there for a few weeks.
Like for like longer than Sarah. So like
okay, I don't know if I knew
just gotten in there, and then I suppose they made her get a slave, and she's like, "Oh, Sarah's my best friend. I'll grab her."
You know, here's the thing. You're my best friend.
Will you be my slave?
I don't think I would be. I don't think I would ask that of you. And I don't know if. I mean, I don't think you're just like, hey, Jess, want to be my slave? You have to call me master. I mean, kinky at first, maybe, but like, I don't know. I'd be like, you good? Like,
are you in a cult?
Do we need to talk about something? Because like usually I'm down for anything, but branding is going a little far. Like I don't want to give you collateral.
Branding?
Are you good?
you telling me how much I can eat in a day is too far. Yeah. Like my food is my food. Leave my food alone.
I have to message you when I wake up and ask to like to do shit.
Permission to go to the bathroom? Fuck no. I did that in boot camp. I'm not doing that ever again.
I was like, look, Nikki, I love you. We need to set some boundaries. I don't want to have to ask you to pee. Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, Laura was like under the impression it was like Allison. She went to Keith and she's like, Allison thinks you're sleeping with her slaves. Like, are you sleeping with her slaves? He's like, no, she just believes that. And I never corrected her or whatever. And she goes to Allison and she's like, are your slaves sleeping with Keith? And she's like, well, just 2 of them, but we're working on the other 2. And she's like, do you mean have sex? By saying working on, do you mean have sex? And she's like, yeah. So that was when Lauren realized that he had multiple partners.
And he was sleeping with her. So yeah.
So yeah, the episode really makes you feel bad for Lauren, but my opinion, fuck her. Okay. Next. And this is why. So episode 5 is a heavy episode. It's dark. It's sad.
Yeah.
Depressing. All those things. Which is why I had to wait till this morning to watch it. I couldn't finish it
episode
yesterday.
5 was yeah. I think you warned me about it.
So episode 5 really talks about this family. This family was an immigrant family from Mexico, and they had 3 daughters and a son. And they got swept up into the NXIVM Kool-Aid.
The whole family did. The whole family did. It's a family affair.
Swooped up in it. But Danny and Cammy are kind of like the ones that we're gonna kind of focus on. And I don't think these are their real names. These are the names that are used in the documentary. So, by the sounds of it, this is not their real names. But yeah, they came from Mexico. I think the parents did like a class in Mexico, and then they came to Albany to do more. And Keith became very close with the parents. Like this wasn't a thing with just the daughters. He became close with the parents, I think, to get to the daughters,
which is like no.
Yeah, so
no.
At some point the parents had to go back to Mexico, but they left their oldest daughter Mariana and Danny, the second oldest, back in Albany with them. So basically left them there. At the time, like, Danny was 16.
That's one of the things where it's like the parents believed it was for good. They believed it was a good thing. They didn't realize anything bad was going on, and like so they just trusted and they left.
So here's the thing,
this is where we buckle up.
Yeah, so this is what makes me think that Pam was kind of involved in Keith's like life, because Mariana became attached to Pam. They were extremely close. And when you watch the videos, there could have been something going on there. Speculation, my opinion. Don't come for me.
Okay.
Just the way that they acted in the videos is very touchy, very loving, very, attached. And then Danny would become very close to Keith. And basically, so Pam and Keith had very close relationships with Mariana and Danny. Very special relationships that most members of NXIVM would be jealous of these two girls because they were getting all of the attention. One thing that's really depressing is Danny she was extremely smart, smarter than Keith, for sure. Fuck Keith. He's not the smartest person in the world.
Absolutely not.
Danny got a scholarship to go to Switzerland to do a semester of school in Switzerland, which is not something, that they just hand out. They give this scholarship once a year, and she's the one that was selected for it. And Keith convinced her not to go because he can teach her everything. Ugh. Because he can be her teacher. Ugh. Basically, Danny had like no way of making real money.
They had complete control.
Yeah, they had complete control of her. At one point, Danny had stolen $6,000 from one of the offices, but she felt guilty and put it back like almost instantly or like the next day. But because she felt so guilty about it, she confessed to Keith, and Keith basically used this as a way to alienate her from everyone else. So like Nancy for the longest time thought she was like a sneaky, like, oh, she's bad. And so like Keith used that to like alienate her from the rest of the members. And he groomed her. He would kiss her, touch her, but no sex until she's 18. Ugh, gross. Which that's what she asked for on her 18th birthday, to have sex with Keith. Like,
I screamed when I heard that.
Yeah. Keith, just a like overall note, because it's in purple. It's my overall notes. Keith constantly would tell the women around him to lose weight. That was something we saw in the first season, and it's something that kept being brought up in this season too. He was which is like completely gross because he's not even in weight. He's so ugly. Not only that, he's just like, he's not fit or buff or skinny. Like, why do they have to be skinny? You know what I mean?
No, but the women have to.
Yeah, after Danny turned 18, she asked for sex. Basically, once sex started with Danny, she became part of his inner circle. Like a big part of his inner circle. Her visa actually expired in 2004, but they basically flew her to Canada and then snuck her back across the border. So now she was in the country illegally. So now she really had no way out.
Nope. No way out. And they... Oh, you're going to probably get to this, but they used that against her.
And then it's at this kind of point where the family decided to bring the younger kids, which is when Cammie came into the picture. And she would become the next Danny. Immediately, right away, Cammie was isolated by Keith. He kept her somewhere else. Like, nobody knew where she was kept. He basically had sex with her right away, underage. I don't know her age exactly. She was definitely underage. At one point, Danny was forced to have an abortion. Keith paid for it. Then after told her that this was a great opportunity to lose weight. Such a dick. Yeah. So eventually Danny didn't want Keith anymore, obviously. Because he's a 40-year-old man, right? So she had an interest in one of the other members and in fact made out with him, I think after one of their volleyball games. Bullshit. And she confessed to Keith because basically she thought of him as her best friend, like someone I can confess to, tell anything to. And Keith threw probably one of the biggest hissy tantrum fits ever to exist. He blew up. He told her that she had an unethical breach. There's no way to fix this. He locked himself in the bathroom, and then she's like, want to talk this out. Like, I need to understand what's going on. And he tried running from the bathroom to a room, and she followed him, and he threw her on the bed, locked the door, and like ran out, and it was just like a huge mess. And basically Danny was shunned from that day forward. Danny was actually talking with someone in the group, basically trying to fix this unethical breach. And the person who was trying to help her, basically there is no ethical breach. Like, she was just interested in someone else. And so at some point Keith realized that that was not helping her, and so he had Lauren take over Danny's ethical breach, which is why her care. Like, Lauren should have known this was fucked. So he came up with this idea, the room. He's like, you can go into this room and you can reflect on your issues and come out perfectly fine. Because that's how it works, right?
But basically an adult timeout.
Yeah. At this point, they had taken everything from Danny. She had nothing, including her papers. So she really had no choice whether or not to go into this room or not. She couldn't leave. And, anyways, she went into
because they had her papers. She had no money. She had no education. Her family's back in Mexico. So, like, she literally had nobody.
She went into the room March 9th, 2010, and she would spend over 2 years there. Now, let me explain this room, because you're probably thinking like a bedroom, right? This whole Danny and Cammie situation, I had no idea about. Jess had no idea.
I don't know if anybody did.
I don't think anyone did until the court trial or whatever. So, like, this is like all new information. But let me tell you about this room, because it's not like a hotel room. She didn't have amenities. She didn't have this. The room was completely empty except for like a tiny mattress, and I would describe it as a prison mattress. Have you ever seen the thin plastic prison mattresses? That's basically what it was. The window was covered, so it was completely dark inside, to my understanding.
It covered like newspapers and shit like that, right? Like, it was like you couldn't take it off.
And she was given a pen and a paper, and she was supposed to write to Keith every day, basically apologizing. But she had broken an ethical breach, and that cannot be fixed with Keith, as we know. So
my heart is hurting.
Yeah.
This is so hard.
Also, the way that Keith was able to get Danny in this room was he manipulated her whole family. Like, he had brought the family up and was like explaining, like, Danny is bad. She's just so bad. Like, I don't know what else to do with her. And they fell for it so easily.
Yeah,
so
the whole, like, at one point it said like her dad supported it, and I'm like, excuse me, what?
And the mom was like, I know I'm part of the reason that we created this monster. And I'm like, excuse you? She's being abused. Like, she's not a monster.
Oh my God, she's such a baby.
And even her meals would be brought to her by her like siblings. Needless to say, she broke very quickly. I mean,
that's torture.
You take a serial killer, the toughest of toughest prisoners, put them in solitary confinement in pitch blackness, nothing in the room, solitary confinement. They're gonna go crazy. It's just human nature. Like, we're not meant to be in small closed off places for long periods of time. She was so angry with Keith. Like, her letters at first like started off nice and stuff, and then they would turn angry, and that would just be more reason to keep her in there because
now she's angry.
And at one point she cut off her long hair because she knew Keith liked long hair. And Lauren comes in and she's like, "Now you have to stay here till it grows back." At some point, she started gathering cleaning supplies with the intent to end it. She's like, once I get enough, I'll just drink it and it'll be over. But one day, she happened to look outside. She must have like moved the window or whatever, stuff on the window. And she saw a cardinal just sitting there. And she decided, no, I want to live. And she basically said, "Fuck you" to everyone and walked out.
Because that was a thing. The door was never locked. The door was never locked. Like, she could have left. That's how manipulative and scary that the entire situation is that she was kept in this room of solitary confinement, but they never locked the door.
And it was like, her choice to go in, but she was so far trapped mentally by these people that she couldn't. It's insane.
Absolutely insane.
So insane. At the end of this episode, because she testified in court, at the end of the episode, Keith had said that the room was not true, that she wasn't in there 24/7 like she said, that she lied about it all, blah blah blah. But
he also said a lot of other things aren't true.
So which brings us to episode 6. We're almost done, guys. And this kind of goes back to the DOS, the sex cult, the sex trafficking, wrapping it all up. So DOS was actually created in a way to control the women in his life, is what it's believed, because the thing with Danny had already happened, and he was kind of losing control over Cammy as well. So the creation of DOS was actually exposed in court by messages between Cammy and Keith. And those messages are astounding. Keith would state that Cammy should get a slave, that he would command her to get a slave. Like, that's how this all kind of like started. Is the talk between them two. One of the main things about this episode and of the trial was the whole sex trafficking of Nicole. And basically Allison Mack had groomed her for Keith. And Nicole was kind of like Keith's perfect woman. So the whole like sex trafficking thing. Nicole was introduced by Allison to tell Keith, instructed by Allison to tell Keith, "I will do anything for you." So when Nicole finally decided, okay, she walked outside, said, "I will do anything for you." Keith was like, all right, grabbed her and took her to an undisclosed location while she was blindfolded. And then she was taken into this nasty room with dirt. He always had dirty white sheets.
And that's like so disgusting.
So gross. Each woman that talked about sleeping with him mentioned dirty white sheets.
First of all, white sheets are extremely hard to keep clean. White is such a bad color. Like, it is. So don't get white sheets, first of all. Second of all, if you're gonna get white sheets, bleach them. Bleach them. Clean them, please. Okay.
But yeah, and a person performed oral sex on her while Keith spoke, and that person was Cammy.
It was Cammy.
He had
she didn't know either. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know. She was tied down, and then she's like, I felt the things. She thought it was Keith, and then Keith started talking beside her head, and then she knew it wasn't Keith. Like, I can't imagine. I can't.
Basically, Cammy had turned into Like, he had groomed her so much that she had turned from victim to victimizer. And that's kind of where my notes leave off, because that's the end of the trial, and that's where Jess comes in with all the other information about
oh my god,
the lovely people.
Yeah, so that's where you left off. Okay,
that's where I left off.
God, it was so bad. Yeah, the whole Danny and Cammy thing was brand new information, and I don't know if I had no idea that was going on. So a lot of new things came up in this season.
Yeah,
which it was bad to begin with. So yeah, I'm just gonna break down my section of it. Is kind of like, all right, what did everyone get? So we're going to first off with Claire Brofman. So in July of 2018, NXIVM financial backer and Seagram's heiress, Claire Brofman, was indicted on several charges, including racketeering, identity theft, and money laundering, along with Keith Raniere, Allison Mack, Nancy and Lauren Salzman, and Kathy Russell, who was NXIVM's bookkeeper. So like you said, they were all, it was a group. They were charging this group, which is also why people started pleading guilty, because they didn't want to be charged as a group. Speaking of, Brofman pleaded guilty to conspiracy to conceal and harbor illegal aliens for financial gain, as well as fraudulent use of identification. We know one instance. I'm sure there were many others. If she had gone to trial, she could have faced up to 25 years in prison, but her plea deal brought her projected sentencing guidelines down to 21 to 27 months. So 25 years in prison or 27 months.
Yeah.
Still, the judge informed prosecutors and Brofman's attorney that in December of 2018 that he was considering an above guidelines sentence for Claire, meaning he could impose more prison time than would normally be given under the sentencing guidelines.
Well, because she was basically the money person. She was 100%. The one that was, moving the money, doing all that stuff. So that would make sense.
Brofman also remained loyal to Raniere.
Oh.
Writing in an August 28 letter to the judge, many people, including most of my own family, believe I should disavow Keith and NXIVM, and that I have not is hard for them to understand or accept. However, for me, NXIVM and Keith greatly changed my life for the better.
So she's still like one of the dedicated
team
followers.
Keith.
Wow. Okay.
As the first of the defendants to be sentenced, she received 6 years and 9 months in prison.
Okay. I don't feel bad for her.
After 9 former members of NXIVM testified against her on December 30th, 2020. Brofman is imprisoned in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, and her attorney told CNN that, quote, she intends to mount a vigorous and immediate appeal. How's that going?
How's it going? For real.
We're waiting. Yeah, so Claire Brofman got 6 years and 9 months. Sorry, I do not feel bad for her. So
no.
Next is Allison Mack. So Allison Mack was Smallville actress and Doss's first line master, meaning she reported directly to Raniere within the women's only secret society.
She was like the inner circle.
Allison Mack was charged in 2018 with crimes including racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and forced labor conspiracy. She pled guilty to the least salacious of those against her, racketeering and racketeering conspiracy charges, in order to avoid trial. Sentencing guidelines called for a sentence of 14 to 17 years for Mack, who on June 30th, 2021, received a light sentence of 3 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release after serving her prison term, plus a fine of $20,000.
Which is frustrating because she was definitely one of the main players.
I think she got off because of how manipulative Keith is. Yes, she was one of the inner circles. She was one of the, what do they call him, a first line master. But
just the way that she acted, like she was so excited that she was getting these slaves to sleep with like Keith, and like
because that was her purpose. Like I think she was
okay.
Yeah, I know. I mean the sentencing guidelines was 14 to 17 years and she got 3.
Yeah, that's okay. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Nancy Salzman.
Nancy.
Honestly, the freaking by the end I really wanted her to get off. I did. I know it sounds crazy. I know that's but she's older. She was taking care of her parents. And
So the documentary did what it was supposed to do.
It did. It had me feeling for spoilers. Okay. The finale of season 1 of The Vow contained a brief interview with Nancy Salzman, the prefect of NXIVM, where she appeared at home confined on bond with a tracker on her ankle. The clip was something of a preview for season 2, which featured interview footage of Keith's co-founder, who has since publicly disparaged him. And she did.
Mm-hmm.
She even went on trial against him. Along with Raniere, Brofman, Mack, and Salzman's daughter, Lauren, the co-founder, was arrested on an array of crimes in 2018. She pleaded guilty to only racketeering conspiracy and was the first out of Keith's co-defendants to accept a plea and break her alliance to Raniere. So good for her. It had to been scary.
She also, because you'll see throughout the whole season 2, she really believed that Keith was innocent. And you see her really realize that he was not even close to being any type of good person.
I mean, she broke down multiple times. She faced a sentence of between 33 to 41 months with a maximum fine of $250,000. And on September 8th, 2021, she was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. This is a quote from her when she was in court. "I'm horrified and ashamed that I promoted him." And then she went on to call him a narcissistic psychopath. Salzman is currently serving her sentence at Federal Correction Institute in Hazleton, West Virginia, and is expected to be released in December 2024.
December 2024? Did she not go in till
last year?
Oh.
She went in 2021. That was when she was sentenced, September.
Mm.
Lauren Salzman, so Nancy's daughter, first line DOS master along with Allison, was also arrested on racketeering conspiracy charges, including trafficking, forced labor, and extortion in 2018. Extortion being the fact that they would get the collateral, naked pictures, whatever, and then use them against them. It's great company. Lauren was responsible, along with Raniere, for trafficking a victim, confining her to a room for almost 2 years as punishment for having feelings for another man that was not Keith.
And that was Danny. Yeah.
That was Danny. Salzman threatened that if the victim left the room, she would be sent to Mexico without any identification documents.
See, this is why I still say fuck Lauren, because I get that she was manipulative, but she did things that were not okay.
Yeah. So Lauren pled guilty to racketeering conspiracy and racketeering charges so as to circumvent the trial. She did plead guilty for that. She was the only co-defendant of Raniere to testify against him in court, where she detailed hellish conditions of DOS life, spoke of his plans to build a dungeon in Albany in order to hold and punish slaves, which they kind of went into. And they were explaining this to Nancy, and Nancy was like, "What's BDSM? What's that?" There was all these pictures and shit of how they were going to build this dungeon. And she was like, "What's that used for?" It reminded me of my grandmother, not understanding, what do you mean assume? Oh, it makes an ass out of you and me. She's like, huh? That was the vibes I was getting. Oh my God. This pisses me off though. So you're telling me Nancy gets 3 years in prison. On July 28th, 2021, Lauren received a sentence of no jail time.
Yeah. That shit pisses me off. And and Sarah's sitting there oh, it's such a relief. You don't understand what she did then if you think it's a relief that she got off so easy.
I think they just really think she was manipulated, but and she testified him. She testified. She went against Raniere and testified, and I think she got off because she testified against him. But damn. All right. Finally, Keith Raniere. Vanguard, little shit, was arrested in Mexico and extradited back to the United States in February 2018. He was charged with crimes including racketeering, sex trafficking, forced labor conspiracy, and wire fraud conspiracy. Raniere was the only defendant to plead not guilty. The only one. He was convicted by a Brooklyn jury of all counts against him in less than 5 hours during the June 2019 trial, which is funny because in the documentary, it showed they closed all the things. They were like, all right, it's going to take at least a week. We might hear something back in a couple days. This the prosecutor was eating on a bench. She's like, I got a message. Wait, wait, he said we have to come back. Hold on. And she like sprints, papers flying everywhere. Like she's like, we gotta go. Because it was 5 hours. 5 hours they convicted his ass.
So the not guilty thing, like, was he really that confident that he could convince like an entire courtroom that this didn't happen? Like, what was he thinking?
I don't know.
That's so insane to me.
It really is.
Anyways,
he faced a mandatory minimum of 15 years of imprisonment and up to life in prison. Mm-hmm. As the vow shows, Raniere awaited his sentencing in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, where a group of supporters allegedly danced outside in support of him every night. There was no allegedly. We saw video of it. They would literally they had flashlights and would sending messages to him.
How does he have a flashlight in jail? That's my question. Okay, so you don't know my background. I was in military and I was a correctional officer, and you're not allowed to have those things. So
it's a detention center. Maybe it's not as strict.
Maybe not as strict.
Maybe. But the fact that people are just outside dancing for him. On October 27, 2020, he was sentenced to 120 years in prison after many emotional hours of victim statements from 15 former NXIVM members and victims of abuse. He is currently serving his sentence at the U.S. Penitentiary in Tucson, Arizona. Fun fact, just to end it, because I have to have fun facts. Mm-hmm. Another lawsuit was actually filed against NXIVM leadership in January 2020 by over 80 ex-NXIVM plaintiffs, many of which filed under pseudonyms. Fake names. Mm-hmm. The civil suit alleges that Raniere, Salzman, Claire, and Sarah Brofman, and Allison Mack, among others, conspired to systematically abuse, manipulate, and extort the members of the organization. So NXIVM members in general are filing civil suits.
Yeah, because what they offered were not cheap. No. It was $7,000 for a session or something.
Episode. For a what was it? It was a weekend. It was a power class. $7,000 for 4 days. If you wanted to do the 10-day program, you had to pay $15,000. It was insane. It was crazy. Yep. But yeah, that's all it's
our NXIVM cult update.
Episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It was one of those things where we started watching The Vow. It was we need to talk about this because so much more has come out now. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to just touch base on it. Plus, I'm feeling a little better, so we can really just discuss. I don't like when we just talk about stuff too. Mm-hmm. Genuinely. So that's it for this episode, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to follow, leave comments. If you're watching on YouTube, hi, don't forget to like and subscribe. How many are we? We're at 16 still. Let's go, guys. 16 friends. Hello. Hope you're all here.
Welcome. Do you like the new thumbnails? Work very hard.
She did. Thumbnails are great. And we're getting to the point where I think you said it before, but hopefully we can start organizing the actual podcast into playlists and stuff, because that'd be really cool.
You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with our username at TTATA Podcast. And if you have any comments, concerns, suggestions, in the link of our bios is our link tree, which has another link to our email. Email us. That's what I was getting at.
Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. Yeah, with this, we're going to leave you with an inspirational quote.
That's my job. Ready?
I'm so ready.
Don't count the days. Make the days count. By Muhammad Ali.
Oh, shit. That's a good one. That's a really good one, because I think especially people who work that Monday through Friday life, mm-hmm. I find myself looking for the weekends so much, to where I hope Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday go by fast. Thursday's okay. Friday gets here and I'm let's go. And then you blink and it's Sunday. And then you realize you do that on a consistent basis. The year's over. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So really just try to like pick something out each night, each afternoon that you really want to do. And yeah, make the days count.
Yes.
That's really good.
Do it.
Okay. Do it. All right. Happy New Year. See you guys next year. All right, bye. Bye.